this event to listen in on.
Yeah, that's perfect. This will be fast paced. It's designed from my perspective to be a fire hose of information, good information. I try to keep it really direct, but it's designed to be good information. And then there's follow-up. So if it goes so fast, hopefully the recording works correctly today, but it doesn't matter because we have an entire course on this topic. So I see John over there on one side of my screen and Tim on another side. Welcome, a couple of our video participants there. By the way, I think everybody should at some point get to know Tim and say hi. Thanks to Tim, because Tim pushed me into Michigan. I'm out here in the DC area and I could have picked any one of the 50 states. And Tim said, let's go into Michigan. There's 5,200 businesses. What can we do to help Michigan become more successful in government contracting? I'm not trying to do everybody's job on the winning part, but I am trying to help people on some of the key things, and the dynamic small business search is going to be one of them. So we got a lot of people coming in. Like I said before to the folks who are on Zoom, you can feel free to throw your video camera on and you can see each other, or you can leave it on mute. In a minute, I'm going to mute everybody and I'm going to go through the webinar. And as we go through the webinar, I'll keep everybody locked on mute so we don't, hey Neil, so we don't get any kind of cross feed, et cetera. And then I'm going to take it off mute, which will allow any of you to come on and off mute and be able to ask questions, drive into it. But the bulk of the presentation is like 20. I'm going to try to keep the presentation to 20 minutes and then really dive into people's profiles. Did anybody I'm just checking the chatting. By the way, use chat. If you're in Zoom, use chat, say hello to others. It's up to you on whether you feel comfortable with this. But for the people who've been on these type of calls before, the interaction's fun because you're on with mostly Michigan businesses, and getting to know other GovCon businesses is a great way to go forward. Even if you're not in related activity, like Neil Chapman's focused on pharmaceutical and medical device testing. He's got experience knocking on HHS's door and VA's door. Maybe you don't do directly that, but you both might target the same agency. It's always good to share that information back and forth. So we're at 12:01. I'm going to get started. Last thing I'm going to say, reminder is to, hey, Jim, thanks for chatting. Throw your DUNS number out there and let me know what your DUNS number is, because as we get to the end, I'm going to look at your DUNS profile, as many people as I can. So, okay, I'm going to mute all. I'm going to take away your ability to unmute. Allow participants. And, Cecilia, Tim, Neil, you're active. If you guys wouldn't mind keeping any of the chatting going, especially Tim, you've seen me do this before, and John. Okay, hitting yes. I'm going to share my screen and we'll get started. In case anybody's curious, yes, live. It's live training. It's pretty much the only type of webinars we do is live training. Okay. I am sharing my screen, and my goal is to see, you can see the presentation now, right? Tim, nod, or John? Somebody, good, okay. And I'm just gonna get rid of the camera so I won't be able to really see people. Let me just move this guy out of the way a little bit. Put him down here. Okay, so the whole purpose of today's webinar is designed to help you understand how powerful the dynamic small business search tool is to making your company visible to the federal buyer. And so that's what we're gonna get into. Our three objectives today. First is just to understand, how does market research happen in the federal government? And you'll see this in a second, but I have over 20 years of experience in the federal government as a business owner. And even for me, the last 18 months, I'm like, I wish somebody would have taught me this. I go back to the basics all the time because I believe a strong foundation delivers success down the road. So you'll see me doing things like explaining how the federal government does it from my perspective. And then we're going to identify the gaps in a typical DSBS profile. So this is how you analyze your own profile. I'm going to go through one as slides, and then I'm going to go through a bunch of yours live. And then the last one is making your company visible for as many of you as possible. I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to change to step your profile up, let's say from an F or D grade to a B grade. I'm not trying to get you to an A, that's further training, but in here, just what do you need to do to move it forward? Most importantly, to become visible to the buyer. Let me tell you a little bit about me. My background you can see here, but I've already mentioned I have over 20 years in federal contracting. I have a lot more years of that in just professional experience, but in the federal government standpoint, I've been serving agencies across the board on intelligence community, defense community, and civilian side. So pretty much any of the major agencies you can think of, I've supported. Small agencies like the Executive Office of the President, which is a teeny little civilian agency, into CDC and HHS, into the Air Force, the Army. And my experience across there has been gained through multiple companies. My last one was I sold in the end of 2017. And from that period on, I've basically become this advocate / coach for small businesses to understand the process. If you hear me do any of my videos, I end them with government contracting is not a secret, it's a process. And I'm trying to teach the process from step one all the way through to that first million. I believe that if you do that stuff correctly, your second million is just repeating the steps, right? So getting to 2 million or 10 million is easy. Getting to the first million is always the hardest. And it could be the first million after you've got some easy wins. How do I get to the next level, et cetera? So I'm trying to teach the process. And it's not just based on my experience. I go back to the contracting officers. I go back to the small business specialists, the program office people. Join me on LinkedIn and you'll see all sorts of videos, podcasts that I put out that are trying to share this information from the actual buyer's perspective. Now I'm going to actually start adding additional podcasts and lessons learned in from contractors who have won contracts like you might want to win. And I'm going to go get their information. How'd you hear about this opportunity? How'd you chase it down? What did you do? What are some of the things you wish you would have known before that you could be doing now? That's how all of us improve, is if we hear what other people are saying. So, and these other ones, you'll see me. I got a book coming out. First book I'm publishing on government contracting is going to be on matchmaking. That one will be coming out very soon. And it's designed to help people succeed in building those relationships when they go to events. So let's move on to understanding the process. And to me, it begins with the funnel and understanding just the large pool of vendors the federal government deals with. In the federal market, if you use sam.gov and DSBS, there's 300,000 small businesses that are actively selling to the federal government. And when I say active, it means they're registered and their profile's up to date. Half of those probably have no revenue at all with the federal government. That's a separate challenge we're trying to do. But when the buyer comes in, that's what they see. And they need to shortlist that 300 down to 10 or 20 vendors that they can evaluate and decide whether those vendors can solve the need the government has as they try to accomplish the mission. So, you look at the funnel and you have the all businesses. The first step that they do is they type a keyword. And let's use Neil Chapman as an example, first one on. And let's say medical testing they come in, or pharmaceutical. They'll type the keyword in, and from the results, from that search, they'll get rid of 80% of the vendors out there. Probably in his case, they might get rid of 95% of the vendors, because what he's doing is much more unique than, let's say, software development. So the keyword gives them a much smaller list. When they get the results back, they look at the next thing is the capability narrative. The capability narrative is this elevator pitch, or something you might say at a Thanksgiving dinner or cocktail party and networking event where you say, you answer the question of what do you do? That capability narrative is a generic high-level way of describing what you do. They look at that for two things. Do you have one? And then does it match what they're looking for? So say they search medical testing, or in fact, say they're searching testing and Neil Chapman's profile comes back and they read it and they go, oh, this is all about pharmaceutical. That's not what we're looking for. We were looking for software testing. Now they need to get better with their keyword search, but it's a way for them to quickly balance whether Neil's company fits their need. And if his description in that narrative doesn't point that direction, they go, okay, you're swiped left or right or whatever it is. And you're off the running, and we continue on down. The next thing they look at the very bottom of the DSBS profile is your past performance or experience. And down there, you can put in anything you want. I'll talk about it in a minute, but basically they're looking to see, does this company have the experience related to what that keyword was and the capability narrative is describing? It doesn't have to be all federal government. It could be anything, it could be commercial. They just want to know, are you experienced at doing that? The last one that they look at is the website. So say you're coming all the way down and you're, they look at the profile and they say, this is a good profile. They want to click on the website to do additional market research on this company. Let me go take a look at their website. Maybe I'll reach out to them now. And so when you think about this funnel, now I want to show you what Michigan looks like. Inside of Michigan, Michigan has 5,200 businesses. Of these 5,200, 60% of them have no keywords at all. That means they're invisible to the federal buyer. This is the reason I'm in Michigan. I'm out here in DC. I have no particular tie at all to Michigan, but I'm committed to going around the country to say, darn, this one problem I wish people would have told us, small businesses. And you'll find out more about this in a minute, but the reason people have no keywords or missing keywords is because it's not a required field. When we stood up our company and registered in sam.gov, we just filled out the basics and keywords wasn't there. And so as you can see, that's one of the first vetting ways a buyer is doing market research. So 60% of Michigan businesses are virtually invisible to the federal buyer. When you continue down, 70% are missing capability narratives, just no capability narrative at all. So you understand this, right? 7 out of 10 companies are just pushed off to the side, and I'm going to look at these 3, but I need 20. It's like, that's fine. Then I'm just going to get enough companies, let's say 100, and 100 will get me 30 good companies that have a capability narrative. Same thing as you come down, the experience. Almost nobody puts in their experience either because they haven't followed back up or they're worried about competitors seeing their information, which are all misunderstandings, because the reality is I can look in your, I can do my own research on the internet, learn all about your company. So it's not that big of a deal, but no, many people don't have the experience. But the worst one for me is the website. 75% have a missing or broken website. And you're going to see this in a minute with the website demo. You're going to see this on Neil Chapman. You're going to see this on your profile. I just noticed this is a fix that takes 2 seconds, 2 minutes, right? Because of the internet, but it takes 2 minutes to fix. And all of a sudden you're potentially in the running. And that's all I'm asking for. And that's the purpose of this webinar, is to help you take care of the things that are quick fixes that just give you a higher odds of being found by the federal buyer. So let's talk about why this is important to us, the DSBS profile, the dynamic small business search tool. Biggest reason, I just described it with the sales funnel. You want to get found. So as it's coming down, the federal buyers obviously are going to find you, but also large firms who are looking to meet their subcontracting goals. If you don't know this, large companies that win a contract that, let's say, is over $700,000, for round numbers, they have to give 23% minimum to small businesses, and they have the same socioeconomic goals as well. So woman-owned needs to get 5%, SDBO needs to get 3%, HubZone 3%, 8A 5%. When you think about that, they're looking for companies, and they're not just going to give it away. They need to find qualified companies. So by coming into DSBS, they're able to find the companies and then evaluate how they describe themselves and look at their experience, which might add you to the team. So largest. And then smalls. Many of these small companies are perfect teaming partners for you. If you're under $10 million, a bulk of your teaming activity should be around other small businesses so that you can reach out and develop those relationships and together go after wins where everybody's getting a piece of the pie. So these small companies like yours would go into DSBS to find companies that are similar or have, more importantly, complementary services. So this quote you see here from the Navy Director of Small Business Programs, it's one of the buying commands. This person just wrote this quote like 2 weeks ago when I put this out on LinkedIn, and they came back and they reinforced this. And I'm trying to drive this home to say the government buyer who does the market research right now, looking for firms like yours, is the one saying, listen to what Neil's talking about. It's absolutely true. And so again, what they're trying to do and what I'm trying to do is encourage you to realize how important DSBS is and get in and make that change. So again, going deeper into why it's important to us, I describe it as the foundation of all marketing material you have. A lot of us might look forward downstream in our marketing and think we got to go do all this other activity, but we skip the dynamic small business search tool, your SAM profile, your SBA profile. And the important thing about this is when you fill out DSBS, you've got all the information you need to now go fill out Lockheed Martin's profile. Inside of Lockheed Martin, if you want to become one of their potential vendors, you register in their database. And they ask you the same questions that are in SAM and SBA, which make up DSBS. I'll talk more about that in a minute. But that DSBS profile information feeds right into here. You just duplicate it. Your capability statement. When you really think about your capability statement, it's asking you your core competencies. When you think about keywords, it's ways to put bullets onto your capability statement that showcase what you do. The NAICS codes that you need to do within DSBS and SAM, that information goes right on your capability statement. There's no point in trying to come up with all this information at your capability statement stage. You should be doing it all in DSBS. And when you write your capability statement, it should take you an hour. Some basic formatting and you're done. You can always have somebody make it graphically pretty, but the core of creating your capability statement should take an hour, let's say, because the information's already there. Same thing with your website as you move forward with that, and agency databases. I just put out a link Monday to EPA. EPA has their own database of small business registration. They want you to come in there and let them know you're interested. And I think I said maybe there's like 1,400 companies that are registered on there right now out of 300,000. And so if you had this information already in DSBS, you go over to EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, and you're able to put that information in very fast. Same thing happens around the Navy and some other organizations where they have their own databases. And then the last one is a marketing deck. On the marketing deck, I always describe that as if the capability statements to get you in the door, the marketing deck is what you use when you sit down at the table. You're really trying to sit down to talk to the program office, et cetera. So inside of there, you would use the material that you initially put into DSBS. You would put it into your deck and just make it look nicer, but the foundational information has already been done by doing it in DSBS. So let's talk about another way it's important, and sometimes people don't see this. It really gives us a deep understanding of two core factions, if you will. One is our competitors. We get to look into our competitors and understand what they're doing. So when you have a deep understanding of the dynamic small business search tool, you understand that you can go in and look at your competitors. And because you evaluated their profiles as you were building yours, you now have a much better understanding of your competitors. It's almost as if you took all of their powers and created your own superpower combined with theirs. And when so many companies don't do this, you really distinguish yourself differently from others. So, and I'm going to skip the chats because I don't want to look, some of those might actually, I hope you don't chat privately with me because I'm sharing my screen, by the way. So that might not be there. So the other thing is a deep understanding of the federal government. When you do your DSBS profile, you have to learn how they buy. It doesn't matter what keywords you think are important. For example, you might say the proper way to spell cybersecurity is cyber-security. Well, it doesn't matter because the government does cybersecurity as one word, or they do cybersecurity as two separate words. When you do your analysis of how the federal government buys, you begin to realize, well, who cares what I think? I'm going to use all three of them as keywords. And so the right one for you can go up in your narrative. And then down below, which I'll show you in a minute, in the keyword section is where you can put the alternative ways of spelling cybersecurity as an example. You understand how much they've spent in their process for buying. So when I talk about their process, I mean NAICS codes or contract vehicles. By filling out your DSBS profile and really trying to go through there and create the best profile you can, you will now have a solid understanding of those fundamental questions people ask us. Who buys what you sell? Have you done your market research in the federal government to understand this? And it always used to infuriate me. They tell me to do my homework, but I'm like, how, where do I go? It begins with your dynamic small business search. And I created a course. It's free out there on our website and a couple other locations. But this DSBS course guides you through how to analyze your competitors to beef up your profile, how to analyze the government to beef up your profile. So as you go through, you'll see that. Okay, so we talked about why it's important to us and why it's really important for us to fill out our DSBS profile. Let's talk about it from their perspective. Some of this I already talked about, but the first thing is they use SAM.gov and the dynamic small business search just to even verify your size standard. If you're trying to go after an opportunity, they would look in there and type and verify that you're at a certain size standard. Many of you only have like 1 or 2 NAICS codes, for example, but if they're looking at a different NAICS and you don't have it in there, and I'll show you in a minute, but if you haven't seen your NAICS codes in your profile, it says right there, is this company small, considered small for this NAICS, yes or no? It's a very fast way to see it. Another thing is, I mentioned EPA. They have 1,000+ people in their database, but it doesn't stop EPA from wanting to find new qualified small businesses who can help them, right? And so the dynamic small business search is a great place for them to go in during some market research activity to find new companies. We always want to get new blood circulating in the industrial base. That's the industry supporting the government. And by going in, they can find these new firms. And then these next 3 bullets lay into what I described with the funnel. You know, the DSBS tool is important to the federal government because it allows them to go through that funnel and identify the leads, begin to shortlist them by the qualifications, and then really at the end, find a pool of 10 or 20 vendors. Think about this, right? If the government did market research and they found 10 or 20 companies that could fit the bill of what they're looking for, then that's enough for them to perform market research. That's a legitimate market research. And so they don't need to look at every company that's out there. They don't need to find the best companies. They need to find the companies that fit the bill and come in. Your job is to make sure you're one of those 10 or 20, especially if you're one of the best, then you want to make sure you're in there and able to prove to them that you're the best and you stay on that short list. I'll give you this example as what I mean from really understanding how impactful DSBS is to getting found. I have a company out in Los Angeles. They're called the Bain Group, and they do SharePoint. They do a couple other things, right? But their core competency is Microsoft SharePoint. And we did during a previous training months ago, we did a search for SharePoint migration. That was the keyword search. And 15 companies came up that were HubZone and could do this work. They were not one of them, even though that is like a core activity of SharePoint. You know, those of us who do SharePoint, for example, SharePoint migration is kind of a key one. They didn't have the keyword in there, SharePoint migration, and actually the combination didn't fit in there for them. So as soon as they filled it out, now they're part of the list of 15 companies that came up. When you strip away the companies that didn't even have a capability narrative, then it was only 9 companies. All 9 of those companies are going to be invited by the market researcher to say, hey, we're looking at this thing. We're interested in vendors reaching out. You know, we'd like your thoughts. And I don't mean to say this, everybody does market research exactly the same, but you understand the concept of shortlisting down. If they can find a good, reasonable group of vendors to respond to market research, then that's where it begins. And you always want to be found when they're looking for companies like yours. So we finished the presentation part. I'm going to dive into the analysis. I'm going to go through. I want to remind you, first bullet here is see it through their eyes. It doesn't matter how you think it should be done. It's a combination of how you, your competitors, and the buyers do it, right? And so those 3 make up your final thing. You wouldn't just do it the competitor's way or your way. You want to do it all 3. So we're going to see it through other people's eyes. And then I'm going to describe some things that are just subliminal flags. As I come down, I'm like, that. And, you know, I'm trying to give you a hint of when a market researcher might just say, blah, I can't really explain it, I just move on, right? I mean, I can explain it, but the market researcher might not call it out as much. And then the last thing I want to talk about is how to identify what to fix immediately. And then there's some stuff you can deal with later. Before I flip over, I'm going to take a stab at this chatting. If I can figure it out. It disappeared on me. There it is. Just cool. Okay, good. So there's some stuff in there. People are doing. Perfect. Thanks. Okay, so let's take a look at this profile. This profile is somebody that has been on some of our courses before, and they're totally happy with me diving through the profile. But as we go through, I'm going to move fast. It's being recorded. Happy to make the recording available to you later. Plus, this is all in videos that we do that are in our training course that's for free on the website, as well as on YouTube and actually Udemy for free. So let's come in. When a buyer looks at your profile, the first thing they do is look to make sure it's active, right? If it's active, that's great. They move on and they look at the last time it was updated. This is a subliminal thing. They want to look to see that it's been updated within the last 6 months. Update your profile twice a year, not only for the reason I just said subliminally, but also because your life and your company changes throughout the year. Make sure you're updating it to reflect accurately any of those changes. The next thing is your phone number. I know this is basic, but look at that phone number and make sure that's the one you want, because if somebody's calling you about business, you want that phone to be answered all the time or getting back quickly. You want that voicemail to be a message that says something like, hey, federal buyers, thanks for calling me, compared to just you've reached 843-557-9625. The next one is your email address. This one's really important. Subliminally, if they see contact or info or sales at nano.com, for example, then they're just going to move on. And the thought is subliminally, if I send an email, it's probably just going to go into an inbox that no one's monitoring and it's just gone. I'm not going to pay attention. But if I send it to this Joe guy, it looks like Joe's going to respond to me. Something subliminal, but make sure two things: that you have a real person's name there, and it's the person who's focused on selling to the government, whether it's the business owner or somebody who's really monitoring federal sales. But you want that email answered if somebody's calling out, because anybody who's emailing you is giving you a chance. The next one's your website. So Joe's got 2 websites listed here, and you'll see it. This one will not work. And this is another subliminal thing from my perspective. When the federal buyer is coming down, they're going to see www, and they're going to move on and say, well, I'm not going in there, because if I click it, it goes to a 404 error. It's just a flaw with the SBA's tool here, that if you click on it, it doesn't go forward. And ironically, the next website is the correct way. So it needs to have the HTTPS :/ before the www to work properly. So just reminding you, go into your website, copy the URL, and put it in here. The www page, the first URL I showed you, that's in sam.gov. And the HTTP one that you see for e-commerce website, that's in the SBA profile. So let me pause for a second. The dynamic small business search tool is made up of the sam.gov database, which is managed by GSA, and the SBA profile, which is managed by the SBA. Those two make up your dynamic small business search profile. Let's keep going down here. Another one that I say is subliminal, but really important. Accepts credit card, put yes. It doesn't mean you have to actually sell something to the government, but when it says no, it gives the market researcher potentially that thought that, oh, this company can't even accept a credit card, I'm going to move on. But if somebody comes to you and says, I have a $3,000 credit card, I'm going to buy 1 hour of your time for you to tell me the best way to pave roads in the wintertime or something. I'll give you $3,000 an hour. You're going to figure out how to accept credit cards. And more importantly, you don't have to accept the credit card, the purchase, right? You don't have to sell every single time, but that subliminally is something you want to track on. So let's just move on. And by the way, I didn't say this. Let me back up 1 second. This is the identification, locations, contact. Inside of dynamic small business search, you're seeing it broken up into different sections. And so every slide will have a section. This one is really straightforward. Most of this information is pulled automatically from SAM and somewhere else. And so the only part that there's 2 parts I want to talk to you about on this section. One is current principles. Make sure you have some people down there. You want to show the buyer that your company has got leadership. These are real people. They could do some due diligence to go check on who these people are. To think that there's not a level of relationship that goes into buying and selling is to not understand the selling process. It's not the be all end all. They still need capabilities, but knowing that somebody's there is important. The other one that's important on this page is the your non-federal certification. So this one's good because it has security certifications. A lot of people will also put like state certifications. I'm certified to do construction in California based on these environmental regulations or whatever, those kind of things. What you do not want to do, and I don't have it here, and if I see it today, I'll show it to you guys, but you don't want to put things like I'm an 8A firm or a hub zone. That's all up here higher, and so you don't need to put it twice. The federal buyer already knows that you're a service disabled veteran, for example. See how Joe doesn't put it here? That's good. Let's go to the next page. So this one gets into a lot of information, and I'm going to go over it at a high level because you need to go to the course or the other videos on each paragraph to really understand it. Again, it's all free. It's just really a lot more information. So the first one is capability narrative. This is the story that you want told when you think about an elevator pitch. You're riding up an elevator, you're at a networking event, a matchmaking event, where you sit down and you want to tell them in 30 seconds, here's what we do, 15, 30 seconds, right? This is your introduction. This is who we are. This is basically what we do. And I'm not going to go too far into Joe's except for to say this is pretty good because he talks about, and I know it might be hard for you to see, but he talks about from a high level, we provide practical training on cybersecurity, computer systems, and networking, right? He's giving them lines that a person who might not be that experienced at what he sells, they'll be able to understand. That contracting officer or that small business specialist, they'll understand from a high level that Joe's company is a cybersecurity software and training company. Oh, and that's what you want. You want something that's a narrative that makes it easy for people to remember you. That's why it's really important on a core competency to have one core competency. You might have 3 words that describe it, but if you try to say you do too much, first, we're not going to believe you because smalls can't do what larges can do. Larges are multi-billion-dollar companies. They can do multiple big things. A small cannot do cybersecurity and SharePoint development and road paving and this stuff, right? So you want to let the government buyer know that you're focused. Once you're in, you can sell them 100 things. But here in your marketing, you want to say, this is our core competency, cybersecurity, software, and training company, right? And the other reason is because you want them to remember when they walk away. Like I use Bay & Group as an example. And Bay & Group is out in Los Angeles. And I'm constantly referring to them in any of my training, not because of any particular benefit I get, but because in my head I go, oh, they're the SharePoint company. Down in Louisiana, there's Vinformatics, and they're the mobile application development company. If you got mobile application needs, I got the company for you, right? And that's how you want to be known. So let me move on to the next one. Capability narrative I described as pretty generic. At a Thanksgiving dinner, you could say it and most of the people at the table would understand you. The special equipments area generally is probably designed for like construction where you would put in tractors and these other things. But from our perspective, it is a 1,000-character keyword field. That field is full text index. That means to me, I recommend you put in something that's a little more meaty around cybersecurity, where you can describe maybe some of the projects or talking in a way that's targeted more towards that program office. Most importantly, though, the reason I say this is use that field as a way to get additional keywords in. Remember, you're trying to be found. This is not your PowerPoint deck. This is not where you're really showcasing everything. You're trying to get found. And so you want to use these fields that'll help that happen. The business type percentage, my only recommendation always on this is make sure you have research and development, the R&D option here, selected for 10 or 20%. Sometimes they might search on R&D, and even though you do R&D or Joe does R&D here, it doesn't say it, and if they select that field in that choice, and he won't come up. So just choose that. The NAICS, it's really important as you pop through here. As I'm looking at his stuff, I just see he's got four NAICS codes in here, and I can already see that the ones for cybersecurity that are primarily used for cybersecurity aren't even in here. You want to go through the NAICS codes and find the ones, and I show this in the course. How do I look at the buyer and see how they're actually buying cybersecurity, for example? The next one, this is the most important one as it relates to getting found. Remember, Michigan businesses, 60% of you are invisible. Keywords, that's 525 characters. You should use every single character in there. And a keyword is separated by the comma. So you can have multiple words within a keyword, and they can be up to 50 characters within that single keyword. So fill this out. You want to, and you don't want to duplicate the keywords inside your capability narrative. So you get a little creative with your writing, but the whole point is to have as many keywords as possible that the federal buyer might use to find you so that you get found when they start searching. Hope that makes sense. And we'll talk about it in a minute when I turn the mute off. Okay, so the last two slides, I think this one's on export portfolio, or excuse me, profile. My recommendation most times to people is to just say no, you don't export. Unless you're really a bigger company and you have all those mechanisms in place, it's just a distraction. That's all I got to say about that one though. And then performance. So Joe's got history, but it's not here. And so you need to get that history in here. There's not a lot for me to say except for put it in. When I look at actual DSBS profiles in a minute, I'm going to show you ones that have them filled out. Okay, so that's the objectives we covered. I'm going to try to switch over for a second and okay, I'm going to try to figure out how to bring you all up. Ah, there we go. So you still hear me okay, right? And then I've got to unmute you. And I'm going to move into
you are un.
So actually, I'm going to mute all. Okay, so I muted all now, and but you have the ability to unmute in a minute. So we'll get to that. I'm going to go in first to Neil Chapman's profile because he was here first and gave me his DUNS number, and that was good. And I want to recommend that others give me your DUNS number as well. But before I pop into Neil's, I just want to ask, are there any questions that are coming up immediately? Anything I can help with? Just looking in the chat to see if there's anything there. Okay. Is this all making sense as you're listening to it and hearing it? Okay. So let me pop over then to Neil's profile. Feel free. You guys are now off of, you have control over the mute, right? So you can come off and ask me a question. This is live, so it's interactive. But I'm going to go through Neil's profile very fast to give him some feedback. And then let me just look at this, just one more chat. Okay, good, thanks. And then for the rest of you, if you want me to look at your profile, go ahead and tell me your DUNS. So, okay, so Neil, I'm going to come through yours really quick. Impact analytical. So first thing is you're getting a little close, so just pay attention to your date. Otherwise, active's good. I'm going to come down fast. Here's a good phone number. Just validate it. Chapman is good, especially when I see Neil Chapman. And there, Neil, you probably knew this was going to be a flag for you when I give you a little hint.
We actually changed it to HTTPS about 2 months ago, so I need to update it on the website.
Both of them. There you go. Perfect. Oh, yeah. So something else I want to point out is I said www is on that's on SAM, and the e-commerce one is on the SBA profile. But how do you get to the SBA profile? For a lot of you might be asking. And let me just move this thing really quick. There you go. For a lot of you, you might wonder, go into sam.gov, and nowadays it has you log in with login.gov. Then you're in sam.gov. You go through all of the pages in SAM. You make sure the data is the way you want it to be. Each field is validated. And the very last page of SAM, it has a button on there, and it says, click on this to update the SBA profile. When you click on it, it opens a new tab in your browser. You go into there, and now it's the dynamic small business search, or the SBA profile pages. And you go through there and you fill them out. So this is where you would see the e-commerce website, for example. And in there, you'll fill out all the fields that you want to. When you get to the end, it'll tell you, hey, you're done. Go back to SAM and hit submit. And so when you're done that DSBS stuff, just go back to the other tab. And at the very bottom, you'll see a button that says submit. And when you've done that, you're good to go. Let me keep going down Neil's thing really quick here. So Neil, this is good. Assuming no GSA schedule. I bypass this stuff very fast because it's all automatic. You should be checking that. But here, if you do any special certifications, Neil, around what you guys do, go ahead and throw those in. I just encourage it to be highlighted. Your capability narrative I can see is too small. But let me see. Let me actually put this here. There you go. Let me see what it says. It's full service contract testing laboratory working on with more than 300 companies. So very quickly, everybody, just so you guys know, Neil is saying that his company is a full service testing laboratory. And then also in that same sentence, he's saying we've got a ton of experience globally. We've worked with 300 companies. This is a really good sentence. And then he put in a fluff piece, which is fine. You know, we're dedicated to your success. And then in these industries, blah, 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 blah. So this is a perfect sentence. My recommendation to you is now just get to 1,000 characters, right? Do more of that. But this, if you only had this is very good because this will tell the buyer that this company has experience. This is what they do, and they move on. Because if they come in and type in, Neil, I don't know if this fits your world, but let's say they type in PLMS, the Pathology and Laboratory Medicine Services for the VA. That's a lab that they have, and they do a ton of testing, right? Say they type that in. When they look at his narrative, would that give them any impression that his company is the right one? And for the initial market researcher, it absolutely would, because it tells them he's a testing laboratory. Now his next level is to be able to talk to the doctors or the clinicians who are doing the testing. Neil, I talked about the special equipment, just take advantage of it. For you, I'm assuming yours is mostly services.
Yeah.
Okay, so put 80% services, 20% R&D. I would definitely look around and see how else your stuff is being bought and sold. There's a huge, I just posted on LinkedIn today a post about Navy Seaport Next Gen, and in there I had a link to the best-in-class contract vehicles. And when you click on that, you'll see in there a VA contract for pharmaceutical activity that they do. That's a great place to find some contact people, reach out and say, hey, I'm just trying to check on NAICS. One is you can get the information about which NAICS they're using to buy what you sell. The other is now you've just opened the door without selling to them. You're just getting information, but you've opened the door to potentially new relationships. Did that make sense, that tip?
Yeah.
I'm looking down at your face down there. Okay. Your keywords, you could see it already that you need a lot more. I'm assuming at some points I don't need to say more. Otherwise I'm just, beating you up. That's not nice. But yeah, put a lot more keywords in there. And then I think you said your experience. One of the things I would recommend you do is absolutely put in commercial experience. State, local, commercial, it doesn't matter what the experience is. This is not a response to a proposal. In a response for a proposal, the government might say, hey, we're looking for you to give me 3 past performances within the federal government. Here, they're just trying to go, is this company good with testing? And so if they look in and they see you've got, I don't know, LabCorp or Walmart or whoever you might put down, right? If they see that, they're like, wow, this company's got progressive experience, and including, 2019 experience if you have any. That's Neil's profile. See, and Neil, while I'm looking to see if there's other duns, any questions from what I just shared?
No, it all makes sense.
Okay, and then, so let me come up to make sure I'm taking them from the top. So, got this one. By the way, to look at your own, even if you're online right now and you want to look at it, go to dsbs.sba.gov. Hey, Paul, taking yours. I'm going to put a couple in and then I'll review them fast at a time. By the way, I'm okay on time. The bulk of what I wanted to teach you is taught. And so now I'm going through and just reinforcing it by looking at all these. So I will just, from this point forward, I will just continue to answer any question you have, as well as trying to give as many DUNS profile reviews as I can. This is great. I'm glad you guys are giving me your DUNS, because this is what makes. Somebody just have a question? Oh, sorry. Somebody's got a circle there. You might have to mute yourself.
Yeah, how about that, Neil?
Hey there.
Are you hearing me?
Hey there.
I can hear you and I can hear me.
Okay, great.
Okay, so I'm coming back to this company this is. Let me, whoever that is, mute yourself. Is that Paul?
Yeah.
Paul, you've got a circle in the feed there somehow. I don't know if you're on the phone and thing, but it shouldn't circle through like that.
It shouldn't circle through like that.
I'm sorry?
Paul, you got a
No, I thought you were going through my profile, Neil.
Oh, I will. Give me a second. Unless this is you, I'm looking at Dennis Winslow. Is that yours?
That's all right.
Okay. So let me
Unless
go
this is
through.
you, I'm looking at Dennis Winslow.
The mute while I'm doing it because I got feedback from you.
Because I got feedback from you.
Paul, I'm going to mute you. Let me go through, and then when I get to the end, ask me questions. So, okay, so I'm going to look at this Winslow Consulting, and the date, same thing. It's getting past that 6 months, so get in there and update it. Really, you want to be seen as July and September, the end of the year here. Active is good, coming down really fast. So, email address is good, got a person there, but no web page, and it looks like they have a web page, so you want to check into that, whoever put that in. And then yes for credit cards, that's good. I'm coming down, the ownership stuff is fine. Dennis is great. The rest of the stuff is fine because it's all straightforward. By the way, let me pause for a second because I just saw the Michigan District Office. Remember this for all of you who are on the phone. If you have any questions, obviously you can reach out to me, but you've got locally your PTACs, which are locally. So if you don't know them, learn about them, and it's PTAC, and I'm sure somebody will put a link in a minute to the chatting. But your PTACs, you've got your small business development centers, which are focused on helping you grow your business. You've got your small business administration's district office. That's this group here. So there's a lot of people there who can help you, including the economic development different offices. Like some of you were invited by some of those local offices. Reach out locally. These people want to help you. And don't give them one chance. Give them 10 chances. They need to get to know you. They need to know that you've got your ducks in a row. And one of the best things you can do is to update your DSBS profile, find your local PTAC counselor and go in and talk with them and say, hey, can you give me some feedback on my profile? I'm trying to move forward, blah, blah, blah. But they want to help you succeed. So reach out to them. Let me come down here. This stuff's all fine, but right here, I don't know what you guys do yet. Let me read this. Advanced and emerging technology, research, development, and implementation, procurement of goods and services. Okay, so, and again, I'm tough love, right? My job is just to give you my candid opinion. The certifications, if you got any local state type certifications, put those in. If you've got any around what you sell, that's good. But this narrative is not a narrative. This is not an effective narrative. I don't know what you do yet. And so you really want to take this narrative, go look at the video I put in on how to write a capability narrative so that it showcases what you do. Really quickly, whoever this is, are you able to say in one word what your company's core competency is? And I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I'm just curious, or whether that's an exercise you'll have to do. This one here, I mean, this is fine, but manufacturing to me is making the goods. So I'm just kind of looking at that profile. Okay, so maybe do make that too. I'm looking at these. So this is another interesting thing, right? When I look up here, I see emerging technology, et cetera. When I look at the NAICS, I'm looking at a lot more hardware. And I don't mean to in any way be an expert at this type of stuff, but I can't really tell if I'm in a market researcher's position, what your core competency is. By the way, there's nothing wrong with having 31 NAICS codes. You just want to be sure that all 31 you can justify or related to what you sell. If the government is selling in that many different ways because that's what they do, that's fine. But here you've got aircraft manufacturing and automobile manufacturing. And to me, those are kind of two different industries. So I'm curious on where that would fit. But all of it looks kind of familiar, like it's around equipment and vehicles. So it seems like there's some focus there for sure. These are great keywords. I can already see certain keywords that are just popping. Research, development, manufacturing, go ahead and get rid of those kind of things because they tend to be in their NAICS codes and up in some of the other stuff. procurement. These keywords I would submit that you kind of put those together when you first got in here and you typed them in, which is great. Now the next level up that you can do is to go in and look, how is the buyer actually looking at my stuff? I mean, excuse me, what keywords are they using that are out there? I'll just try and. John, or Tim, you can still hear me there, right? Shake your head. I can see your head. That's all I need. I grab people like you just so I can see. Okay. So as you come down, the last one is there's no experience here. So I don't know for your company whether you've got experience. Paul, was this your company or was this somebody else's? And let me move on to the next one. Feel free to come off mute and ask me. Oh, here's Paul's. So whoever the other one was for Winslow, let me know if that made sense, if you had questions about it. Definitely take a look at that course because that course will give you so much information on how to create a great profile. Okay, so coming down and looking at Paul's here, this is great. You can see that it's active and it was recent. Coming down, Paul Jackson, a real email. Paul, you probably already saw this, your website. You need to update that so that it matches your HTTP. Yes, here. Coming down, these are all your certification stuff. This is all looking good. By the way, I would definitely get hold of your district office and chat with them. They're super nice. They want to help. Okay, so you've dropped some of those things, which is good. So let's see what yours looks like. PAP Consulting. I tend to get rid of this kind of stuff because you're not trying to promote two things. Minority is up above, and you're not really trying to promote your small business. You're trying to, this is something for everybody. Keep this in mind. We're trying to promote that we're the right choice for the need. And so the fact that we're a small business is basically a tag, no different than saying I'm a veteran-owned, whatever. But jumping straight in, even the location, I would almost get rid of at the moment because you want to jump as fast as you can into this is what we do to support the mission of the government. So I would kind of get rid of, I like the layout. I mean, it certainly is good. We provide innovative and strategic project and facility management techniques and solutions. I would submit that it's almost like PAP's consulting services provides, if I was giving you feedback there, which I am. We specialize in program management, construction, cost management, schedule. This is a project management firm is what this is telling me. Contract administration. Then you expand a little bit, but this is good. It's giving me a high level understanding. Our ideal customers include businesses that are embarking on building construction. Oh, one thing for everybody is this capability narrative is for the federal government. Even if some other people use it, you want to write to the federal government. So for example, they use the word businesses here. Your ideal customer is agencies that are embarking on building blah, blah, blah. Paul Jackson. Yep. Paul Jackson, a lot of experience. So get rid of, you might consider getting rid of Paul Jackson, right? Because that's up above or whatever. Instead, if you want to put something in like that, PAP is led by, PAP's leadership has over 30 years of experience managing blah, blah, blah. It's your choice. That's not necessarily bad at all. Sometimes I get too far into the nitpicky, Paul. But this is good. This is saying that we're led. You know what? I changed my mind. I was wrong, and this is beautiful. It's a statement about the leadership of the company, and this is why we're able to do it is because we're led by somebody who knows what they're doing. I like that. That's good. Take advantage of this stuff, Paul. I think you understand where I'm going with it. Consider doing 10% R&D, just so you're in there. This is great for everybody else out there that he's got his bonding level activity in there. And then you've got all this stuff. Paul, I'd actually love to connect somebody with you who's another business kind of in the space, but they're very specialized. Do you mind if I send them your way? Because it looks like you've got your act together and they could help you.
Absolutely, go ahead.
Okay, good. I'm gonna remember that. And then clearly you need more keywords, but okay, so here's something to keep in mind, right? Is I think risk analysis is in your thing.
Yeah.
It is, and you know what I'm talking about. So you got risk management here, but just make sure your keywords are something different so that you get full take full advantage of all the words. The rest of the stuff is fine. And then your experience here, congratulations on that. If you have other experience. So here's for everybody, here's my recommendation on past performance, and people might do it different ways, but I don't particularly give anybody's information away. So he's got Bob Green here. I tend to just put in available upon request because, for my competitor, I don't mind if you know where I did business, but I really don't want to make it that easy for you to call my customer. And then the other thing is the name, especially when it comes to the federal government, what I try to encourage is for people to put in a name that says what they're doing. So SharePoint 2010 to SharePoint online migration, and then the contract, I don't put in the contract number. I put in Department of Navy or NAVC, for example, in the Navy, or CDC, Centers for Disease Control. And that way they're quickly seeing the type of work, the true scope of the work, and they're seeing the customer. If they want to know more about that, they can send you an RFP and all this other stuff. The idea is to quickly show that you've got the experience in there. And definitely the date and the amount is good. And by the way, don't discount smaller amounts because from the federal buyer's perspective, it's just showing that you have progressive experience. That's never a bad thing. Paul, any questions before I switch on to the next one?
No, but I'd greatly appreciate if you could, send that contact over to me so that we could discuss further.
Yeah, I think you would like her from her core competency, and she would like you from just kind of, I think, the discipline I see that you already have on pursuing the federal government. So, okay, let me move on to this next one. KEM Supply
Thank you.
Enterprise. Let me just open some. Okay, so I did that twice for some reason. Okay, so I'm looking at KEM, and I can't remember whether it was Glenda, whether you're on the call or somebody on your team, but looking at this looks great. You updated it like yesterday or something. Coming down, this is good. Got a good phone number and a person's name, which matches the contact name, which is good. You do not have a website, even though you have a website here. If they only searched on the field for the website, yours is blank. So just go into SAM and put that same website in there. Coming down, the rest of this stuff looks good. I'm not going to comment unless anybody asks on stuff I've been saying a lot so that I can go through a little bit faster for you. This is all good. It's all filled out. Yes, you're a hub zone, which is great. Recent, congratulations. This is a good example here. By the way, this 6/12/2018, is that an expiration date, Glenda, or is that a, when I got it kind of date? And you might even consider getting rid of it unless there's a reason to keep it, because right off the bat, I was thinking that's an expiration date, but I could be wrong. I'm sure I'm wrong. Okay, so as a facilitator, my number one focus is to make easy or ease a process. That focus entails the planning, guidance, and management of the project to ensure, so you're a facilitator, full buy-in from everyone, subjects. This looks good. I would expand it in two ways. First off, obviously get it to the full character count, but the second is expand it a little bit if you've done this work. And I say this to people, it doesn't matter whether you're in the federal government, state, local, commercial, or if you just had a 1099 job or a job, you can put this in. This isn't your official past performance type thing that you would put in a proposal. You're just trying to say, I have experience doing this work. Talk to me. Let me tell you more. And so I'd like to see a little bit more, a sentence in here that talks about we've supported such and such. You might consider getting rid of my and putting in our. You're a multi-billion-dollar business, revenues not yet recognized. And then consider the special equipments, writing something similar to what you did, but almost like, here's kind of our approach. If you want to expand on that, it's never a bad thing. And it's good practice for when you are writing responses anyways. Manufacturing seems totally wrong to me. I don't know if I'm missing something, but it seems like yours should be services. So 80% services, 20% R&D. Does that make sense? And then coming down. Oh, wait. So, okay. I don't know if you guys evolved as a company, but I'm looking here and just reading this again. Planning, guidance, and management of a project to ensure the objectives are met and clear thinking. You're a project manager and facilitator. So I feel like some of this information was old and you might have evolved. Correct me if I'm wrong, but your keywords and your capability narrative don't match at all on there. Am I missing something on that? And then your past performance. So I don't know if you should be able to come off mute to talk, but I'm going to move on to the next one and just pop on as soon as you're seeing this. And then I'm looking at creative engineering. Let's look at this. So let's go ahead and update your profile a little longer. And fortunately, you've got a need to. So it's right here. We need you to have put your HTTPS there, Robin. And I don't know whether it's Robin, Marlene, or Amy. I can't remember who.
It's none of the above.
That's
this is Debbie. I'm the one who does the SAMs, and I do the contract. So
there you go. Perfect. Is Robin still there? Is that the right contact?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So you see that you got to go ahead and do that web page 1, and then this is great. You got your GSA schedule in there. Woman owned, coming down. And then let me see what you guys do. Creative health products. Oh, you should talk with Neil Chapman. Health and health. Maybe there's some synergy. Creative Health Products is a friendly company. It's been in business 42 years, offering cost-conscious pricing on leading brands of fitness, medical, therapy, sportsman on products.
We sell mostly assessment equipment. So assessing strength is assessing health.
Okay. So
I can see that I really need to redo that.
Yeah. Well, and the great thing too is if you've got the time, take that course that I have and you can jump around the course to just get to the sections you want. But I provide a lot of guidance on how to write a narrative that pops. And it sounds like you'd be somebody who, just following it, you're like, oh, hey, I create a great one. But things like this, get rid of Ann Arbor and your phone number above. Same thing with our website, that's up above. And then, take a stab at rewriting that. So this is good. You've got in your case, you're using this as keywords, which isn't necessarily bad, especially when you're selling products and it's less about trying to stress, a different way of doing services. If I'm following that correctly, then you would be manufacturing. Again, I would suggest 80% manufacturing, 20% R&D.
Okay.
You just want to be found. Like if they call and go, hey, we just want you to do a study on something that's related to what you do. You're going to go, sure. You're going to pay us good money to do that stuff. That sounds good to us. And then your NAICS, I would submit you can have at least 6 more NAICS. And I'm just, going on experience that how are they buying what you're selling? In particular, you want to find out like which contract vehicles, and then you can find the NAICS that go with that.
Okay.
I think you're following along, which I appreciate the whole webinar that I'm doing. So up your keywords to the full 525 characters and make sure that you're, I would highly recommend everybody take a look. If you're going to go through this exercise, take a look at the videos that I have on it, because I talk about how do you find 525 characters worth of keywords. And it's not hard if you go through the process of looking at FBO to see what they're buying today, looking at FPDS to see what they bought yesterday, and looking at your competitors to see how they communicate similar products and sales. And then it sounds like you guys got a lot of experience with 42 years, but none of that's reflected here. So try to figure out how you can put stuff in there. And you can, I don't know if you're in one of those type of companies that's worried about putting stuff in there, but you can put it in a marketing way that's just proving that you've got recent relevant experience. And for a company like yours, I would be putting in at least 10 pieces of work over the past 3 years. Generally, you don't need to go beyond 3 years for any of the stuff people have in there. Any questions on that one that I just went through?
No, that was very helpful.
Okay, and definitely for people who are still on, connect with me on LinkedIn. You can message me anytime. You got a quick question, I'd be happy to look at that. So let me go from the bottom this way. So there's the link. Thank you. So Winslow, primarily experience in manufacturing, development, audit. Okay, that's what it was starting to look like. Melting pot of technology. Okay, good. So it looks like I covered everyone. Did I miss anybody's? Oh, I missed this one because I would have screwed that one out. Jim, I don't know if you're still on, but I'm recording, so maybe that'll help. But this one has a dash, so if I had put it in, it wouldn't have worked. Anybody else still on that I missed yours and that you want me to do?
Neil, I got onto that page for my company, but when it asks about making the changes, what site do I go to make the changes?
Oh, you go to sam.gov to make the changes.
Okay.
And you will, you'll need to log in there. And if you guys, for anybody who hasn't done it recently, you need to have both your login and your, it's called an M PIN, marketing PIN. It's basically a password for a certain stage within SAM, and you can't go forward without it. Jim, I don't know if you're still on, but
yeah, Neil, I'm still here. Could you take a quick look at the Coffee Tree Group one? Basically, one of the founders and CEO of the company are the ones that generated this. He's a veteran also, so if you could take a quick look at that, I appreciate it.
Yeah, I don't. But what I'm saying is, I don't know if I've got the right NAICS code. I mean, excuse me, right DUNS. I'll try it with your company name. Coffee Tree is one word.
Yes.
Okay.
And then space group.
Yeah, as long as Coffee Tree is the first part of the name, that's all I need.
Yep. And the T is capitalized, that's correct. Yeah, I did a DUNS lookup on the site that you guys had recommended.
Did you find it?
Top of my head. That's what I thought I provided to you, that 554472151.
Yeah, I'm not even finding you guys. So hold on one second. Let me try it again. Still trying it in different ways. Trying it on your name.
Got an address here also if you need it.
No, it's the only way I can look it up is the company name and the DUNS. Did they register in SAM and you know that and you're just looking for the next level, or?
Yeah, I think they did. I think he did register, but if you can't find it, well, then that's a bigger issue, obviously.
Yeah, actually,
I'll have to go back and see if he generated a profile there.
Yeah, Tim, can you do me a favor if you're feeling generous? Can you open up the spreadsheet? You know, the Michigan businesses? Open that up and see if Coffee Tree's in there. We take a look at that.
Oh, hang on. It's not going to be under Michigan. It's under Minnesota.
No, that's fine too. But
we are moving from Minnesota to Troy, Michigan, and we're still doing the work for that.
Yeah, no, I'm not seeing your company in SAM at all. And I'm looking for that have been expired. But let me try one last way. Maybe and just make sure I'm clear. Coffee Tree.
Now, there are separate profiles. I mean, SAM, the SBA, etc. They all have their own unique profile, or I missed what you said earlier as far as where they actually, the buyers are searching through.
Yeah, it's so when you register to sell to the federal government, your what you're doing is you're registering in sam.gov, and an extension of that is the SBA profile, which kind of leads to DSBS, but all of that fits together as one big profile, including if you've heard of the CAGE code, The cage code comes from another entity, the DoD, but it all still is basically one big small business profile.
Okay.
So if you go through sam.gov, you'll see all of the stuff that's necessary.
Right.
I'm not finding your business as Coffee Tree or the, and actually, let me try the Duns one more time without the name. But I'm not finding it in here. So you have to let me know if, just check with them. And I don't mind if you check with them and reach back and say, hey, you know, I found this updated information. I'll be happy to.
So there's another company we're strategically partnered with. It's called Beachfront. I got a cage code and a DUNS number for them, which we could look at. They're an extension of us. So, and
What's
also,
the DUNS?
and also I have the CTG DUNS now. The CEO just texted to me.
Oh, is it different than what you gave me?
Yeah, let's try the Copy Tree Group when I say CTG. 0864 23 389.
389?
Yes. He said that's the Copy Tree Group DUNS, and then he's got one. We also, like I said, work through Beachfront.
Hold on one second, Jim, just to make sure I got it. It's 086 423 389.
Yes.
Okay, that one didn't come up. Let me try.
Yeah, well, then try the other one, the Beachfront. And he's got a cage code also for Beachfront.
Now, if the DUNS didn't work, then you're doing a different company. Yeah.
Yeah. We have a strategic alliance with them, so we work through Beachfront also, especially on the government type contracts.
What's their DUNS?
08112 3138, and that's Beachfront. That doesn't come up, then I got a lot of work to do.
Yep, that one came up. James.
Oh, that's there. Yep, he's the CEO, James Wardrop. Correct.
Okay. So let me look at that one really quick. So
we're working.
Yep. So this one's good, recent, up front. James, you good? You got no website though, and so that's always kind of a flag, right? Is that to the buyer, it's a subliminal flag that this company is not mature enough yet to have their own website. Then they're probably not at the level. Just giving you candid. So, and by the way, don't go crazy on a website. 5-page website, now you're legit, kind of thing. Coming down 2017, accepts credit cards. That's all good. Self-certified. Okay, veteran. Hub zone. And then let me look to see what you guys do. Okay. Service desk levels, application support, application monitoring. Okay. So some of these things are like keywords. What you want to do is to turn your capability narrative into an actual narrative. Like if you talk to somebody, you wouldn't say support, application monitoring, security monitoring. You would tell me something interesting over a beer or whatever, right? That's what I try to tell people this.
I agree. There you're just stating your services that you provide, period. Yeah.
So this is good. There's the SharePoint. Put that P as a capital. Senior level, just because I'm a SharePoint guy, that's all. Senior level experience in Fortune 100 companies, negotiated and delivered agreements worth several hundred million. So this is handy and it belongs up here in the narrative. I have no idea what this means unless it's saying that the experience is related to the narrative and the work we do.
Well, in the past, we've dealt with very large outsourcing contracts which have a myriad of IT services in them. So a lot of times we can go in and evaluate your payment to see if you're getting all the value out of it that you're paying. And the one was with Ford, which was worth about $40 million.
This on the commercial side, this is good. That's good. So yeah, so if you can take that narrative and write it a little more specifically there, that would be good, because that kind of experience is really important to the government. If the company is newer to the federal side, but they have the experience in the commercial side, that not only transitions from experience to just a little bit worried about your ability to manage the bureaucracy, but the other thing they like is that you're bringing industry best practices into the government, which tends to be behind industry.
Right. Agree.
change this so you got at least 10%, 20% R&D for business type. You definitely want to figure out what you're selling and pick the top 10 NAICS for you. But there's more than 5, that's for sure. In your space, I've done the same business. IT strategy. So these are keywords now we're looking at. These are good. I would expand them, and then I would also stop using the same word multiple times. And the only reason I'm saying stopping, because no one's going to come read your keywords.
No, I agree. I mean,
it.
through the technology, you get a lot more traction with different words.
Yeah. No, so perfect. You got it. And then your past performance. So again, put a story in here through performance history, because you've got that experience.
Okay.
Which is great. It's, putting something in there helps them understand, even if it is commercial, that doesn't matter. And then if, same thing for you, as I've been saying to everybody, is get in, take a look at that course, and, it'll guide you through. I think if you went from start to finish, it's 5 hours of content. But if you go through and you're like, hey, today I'm going to tackle this, there's videos just around the capability narrative that could be helpful.
Is there a link that you've already posted? Maybe I missed on the chat where the course is located on the site.
Yeah, well, so definitely in the chat, but just go to govconchamber.com.
Okay.
The www.govconchamber.com. And inside there, if you're not already a member of the chamber, it's a free membership, doesn't cost anything. Join the chamber, just join the mail list basically, and you'll get access to the course right in there. And just make sure you connect with me on LinkedIn, so that if you got any questions as you're going along, I can help you.
Sure will. Thank you.
And there's the link. So in chat. Okay. Anybody else have any questions that are hanging on? Anybody have any feedback who've been on and you're just kind of watching? Any lingering questions you have outside of maybe even DSBS? Be happy to answer them while we're still on.
I think you said something earlier about, DOD and a bunch of different branches of the government. Does all this feed into their buyers, or do you need to go to each branch and kind of do a profile? I mean, I'm trying to understand how this is, from a pictorial perspective, how it all works and feeds into these profiles that they can find us. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. SAM.gov, this DSBS profile extension here, is the #1 source for the entire federal government from the buying community. So other agencies I mentioned might have their own databases. Some small business professionals, or even some program offices, the actual buyer, they might have their own hard drive full of capability statements of companies. So this is why it's really important from my perspective that you start here, lock down a good profile, and then as you move forward with a capability statement, you would then begin to try to target specific buyers. If you hear me do other webinars, I talk about pick one agency and learn what you can about them. If you're going to do, let's say, help desk IT stuff, you can do it anywhere, but you don't want to become an expert at multiple agencies. I've seen too many businesses try to get to know the Air Force and the Army. How can you possibly do that? You got like 10 people or 40 people. That means, a 50-person company probably has 3-4 people on the outside for sales. They really should be digging into like the Navy. The Navy is so huge. You could build a $50 million company just with them. And so I always talk about learn everything you can about one agency. And then with your core competency, you can just keep track of other opportunities that are out there. It doesn't mean you won't respond to something that you see at HHS, but you don't have to try to learn to be an expert at HHS. And on LinkedIn too, if you watch both LinkedIn or the free website there at govconchamber.com, you'll find that we keep trying to put information out there about, the EPA. I didn't even know the EPA had their own registry until 2 weeks ago. So as soon as I found out, we put that information out to people and say, hey, go over here, get registered. Same thing with the Navy. A couple of their buying commands keep their own databases, blah, blah, blah. But You'll learn that as you continue to go through, but this is the most important one.
Okay, thank you.
Any other, hope this was helpful for everybody. I know that people were dropping off as they got their information and moved on. Everybody's still on mute, so if you're trying to say anything to me, I can't hear you. And I only see 2 videos, so I'm not, hope that worked for you. For those of you who are still on, did the experience work okay from a webinar standpoint? I'm new to Zoom, moving on to Zoom as a tool. Did this work for you guys? No.
Absolutely, Neil. I mean, this is fabulous.
Good, glad, appreciate it.
Yeah, it worked
okay.
well.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm camping with my kids, and it worked well in the middle of the woods. So yes, it passed the litmus test for me.
That's funny. That's funny. That was great. And you did it with a computer or video or something, right?
Yes, I'm using my phone's hotspot and a computer.
That is hilarious. Good for you. Okay. All right. I'm going to get out of here.
Jim, are you in the UP?
Sorry, say it again. Thanks, ERC.
One last thing here, Neil. I'm